Tonight, before you go to sleep, you'll probably do something so normal that your brain barely notices it. You'll close your bedroom door and feel safer because of it. For most of human history, a closed door could mean the exact opposite. It could mean the place protecting you had also become the thing you could not escape. And that raises a horrible question. What was the most terrifying place humans ever lived? Not the most dramatic place, the most terrifying place to open your eyes and realize your body was trapped inside a world that had stopped caring whether you survived. The answer is not simple, because terror changes shape depending on where history drops you. Sometimes it begins behind a city wall. Imagine waking inside a medieval city under siege. At first, the wall is supposed to comfort you. It is the reason the city exists. It keeps danger outside, turns stone into protection, and lets people believe that if the gates hold, life can continue. Inside the walls, there are homes, churches, market stalls, narrow streets, and all the little routines that make a place feel human. But a siege changes the meaning of the wall. The same stone that protects you also becomes the thing keeping you inside. You hear the enemy before you see them properly. Campfires outside the walls, tools hitting earth, men shouting orders somewhere beyond the gate. The city begins to shrink, not physically, but in the mind. The terrifying part is not only the attack, it is the waiting. A battle is horrible, but a siege turns fear into a daily schedule. People wake up and measure survival in bread. They listen for the sound of digging, because attackers sometimes tunneled under walls to weaken them. They watch the sky for fire, because burning missiles could turn a familiar street into a trap. Hunger does not arrive like a monster. It arrives quietly, through smaller portions, thinner faces, and the moment someone starts looking at the horses differently. Historians often describe medieval sieges as military events, but for the people inside, they were psychological cages. The city became a container for fear, disease, and argument. The rich might hide food. The poor might starve first. Leaders might promise rescue while secretly calculating how long the grain would last. And if the walls finally broke, the city learned the cruelest thing about protection. Sometimes, the thing that keeps danger out also gathers everyone neatly in one place when danger gets in. But even a besieged city still had sky above it. There were other places where the horror was pressed down so tightly that even air became part of the punishment. Picture the lower deck of a slave ship crossing the Atlantic. The first terror is the space where human beings were forced to lie packed below deck in conditions designed around profit rather than life. The ship was moving, but the people below could barely move at all. The wood creaked, the air turned foul, and the body began to understand that this was not a journey in any normal sense. It was a machine built to turn people into cargo. The Atlantic slave trade was not chaotic cruelty by accident. It had systems, prices, routes, calculations, and investors. That is what makes it even more horrifying. The suffering below deck was not a failure of the system. It was built into the system as an acceptable cost. Inside that darkness, terror did not need a battle cry. It came from the knowledge that the world above had already decided your body belonged to someone else. People were chained close together, surrounded by sickness and grief, carried farther from every place that knew their name. The ocean outside stretched for thousands of miles, but below deck the world became smaller than a room. And this is where place becomes more than geography. A terrifying place is not only dangerous because of weather or weapons, it becomes terrifying when it removes choice, when the body cannot leave, cannot stand freely, cannot protect itself, and cannot believe that anyone with power sees it as fully human. That kind of terror does not just threaten death, it attacks identity. A medieval siege trapped a community inside its own walls. The slave ship trapped people inside someone else's idea of what they were worth. And centuries later, another trapped world appeared in a place that looked nothing like the ocean, a trench on the Western Front during World War I. If you stood there for the first time, the strange thing might be how unnatural it felt. The trench was not a home, but men lived there. It was not a grave, but it constantly behaved like one. It was a line cut into the earth where modern technology met ancient helplessness. The mud was not just dirty ground, it was an enemy that climbed onto everything. It filled boots, swallowed tools, carried disease, and made the simple act of staying upright feel like a negotiation with the planet. Men slept against walls of earth that could collapse. They watched rats grow bold around them. They learned the sound of shells the way people now learn phone notifications, except every sound might mean the end of the next breath. The front line was terrifying because the danger was both constant and random. In older wars, a soldier might at least imagine a battle as a moment that began and ended. In the trenches, war became an environment. You did not visit danger, you lived inside it. Artillery could fall on men who were eating, writing letters, or staring at nothing because the brain had run out of ways to respond. Psychologists today would recognize much of what soldiers described as trauma. During the war, people used words like shell shock, trying to name what happened when a human nervous system was forced to stay afraid for too long. The body is built to survive short bursts of danger. It can flood itself with adrenaline, sharpen attention, and prepare muscles to move. But the trench asked the body to do that again and again, day after day, until fear stopped being an alarm and became the weather. That may be one of the deepest forms of terror, when your brain can no longer tell the difference between a moment of danger and the world itself. Still, even the trenches were on the surface of the earth. Some people lived and worked in places where the sky disappeared completely. An ancient mine could be terrifying in a way that feels almost prehistoric. Imagine descending into the ground with a small flame ahead of you, knowing that the deeper you go, the more the world above becomes a memory. Ancient mining-powered empires, gold, silver, copper, salt, and other materials helped build wealth, weapons, monuments, and trade. But the human beings who entered those mines often paid for that wealth with their lungs, backs, eyes, and years. Down there, the earth was not scenery, it was weight. Every sound mattered. A crack in the rock could change the room instantly. Bad air could make a flame struggle and a person dizzy. Dust could settle into the body slowly, long before anyone had the science to explain what it was doing. In some ancient societies, mines were worked by enslaved people, prisoners, or the desperately poor, which meant the danger was not balanced by real choice. The horror of a mine is that the earth does not hate you. It simply does not notice you. A siege has enemies. A slave ship has captors. A trench has armies. But a mine has pressure, darkness, and silence. If a tunnel collapses, there is no dramatic villain in the room. There is only the terrible indifference of stone. And humans kept going underground anyway, because civilization has always had a hidden underside. The beautiful object in a palace, the coin in a market, the weapon in a soldier's hand, all of it could begin with someone coughing in the dark, where no one important wanted to look. But there is one more place where the terror came not from being buried under earth, but from being sealed inside whiteness. An Arctic expedition ship trapped in the ice. At first, it sounds almost beautiful. A ship surrounded by endless white, frozen into a world so quiet it feels unreal. But then the beauty turns on you, because the ship is no longer truly a ship. It cannot sail. It cannot escape. It becomes a wooden room locked inside a continent of ice. The Arctic was terrifying because it attacked time. The Franklin expedition is one of the most haunting examples. In 1845, two British ships, Erebus and Terror, sailed into the Arctic searching for the Northwest Passage. They became trapped in ice, and every crew member eventually died. Later evidence suggested starvation, disease, exposure, and perhaps lead poisoning played roles in the disaster. What makes the story so chilling is not only that the men died, but that they were surrounded by a landscape too vast to negotiate with. A trapped Arctic ship turns survival into a slow argument with reality. The crew can repair tools, keep records, ration food, and maintain routines for a while. Human beings are unbelievably good at pretending order still exists, but the ice does not care about routine. That is the thread connecting all these places. Modern life is full of stress, but most of us still carry a hidden assumption that if a room feels wrong, we can step outside. If the air feels bad, we can open a window. If danger appears, we can call someone, move somewhere, change something. We may not always be as free as we think, but the idea of exit is built into how we calm ourselves down. The most terrifying places in history were places where exit disappeared. And once exit disappears, the mind changes. Fear is not just about pain, it is about prediction. The brain is constantly asking what happens next, where safety might be, and what action can reduce danger. In these places, the answers became brutally unclear. The wall might fall. The ship might never reach land. The shell might land here instead of there. The tunnel might hold, or it might not. The ice might release the ship, or keep it until the food runs out. That uncertainty becomes its own prison. So maybe the most terrifying place humans ever lived was not one single location. Maybe it was any place where the human body remained alive, but the future became impossible to trust. That is why your room tonight is stranger than it looks. When you lie down and adjust the pillow, you are not just getting comfortable. You are enjoying a rare historical miracle, a place where the walls are not a trap, the floor is not a trench, the air is not poison, the dark does not belong to a mine, and the cold outside is not slowly deciding your fate. You probably probably will not think about any of that. You will turn off the light, shift under the blanket, and let the room disappear around you. But for a moment, that ordinary darkness might feel different, because the safest place in the world is not just a place where nothing bad is happening. It is a place you are allowed to leave.